Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. Welcome to the show. I'm Zaka Jacob. The controversy around the new Netflix series IC814 seems to have blown over, at least for now. Senior leadership of the Netflix team today met with INB ministry officials. They've agreed to make sufficient changes to the disclaimer which identifies the hijackers by their real names and not just by their Hindu code names, which of course many right-wing groups took offense to because two of the hijackers identify themselves as Shankar and Bhola, which of course is an obvious reference to Lord Shiva, and that to many right-wing groups on Twitter and otherwise was extremely offensive to Hindu religious sentiment. But the larger question still remains. Have the makers of this series remained faithful to the events that happened between Christmas Eve in December of 1999 and New Year's Eve, when eventually these three terrorists were released in exchange for the 150 plus hostages or passengers? Or was there an attempt through this series to try and whitewash terror, whitewash the role of the ISI and the Pakistan-based hijackers? Or the larger question about whether OTT content, which unlike film content or news content or newspaper content, which is all regulated in some form or fashion, should there be stricter regulation of OTT content? But first, the story of how the entire controversy around IC814 has now, at least temporarily, been resolved.
I'm very happy that the INB Ministry and the Government of India has taken cognizance of this.
अगर वो बकवास दिखा रहे हैं, हमारी भावनाओं को आहत कर रहे हैं और कहानी में छेड़छाड़ कर रहे हैं, इन पर कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए।
यहाँ पर एक OTT में भी सेंसर बोर्ड लगाया जाए।
The opening disclaimer has been updated to include the real and code names of the hijackers. The code names in the series reflect those used during the actual event.
ये जो सवाल आपने पूछा, हाँ, क्या वो आप फिर आरोप बताइए।
नहीं, मेरा ये था, जितने भी चीजें हैं, चाहे आतंकवादियों के असली नाम को ना बताना, और अब जब आईएनबी मिनिस्ट्री में गए तब उसको वापस से आपको करेक्ट करना पड़ा।
सीरीज देखी है?
सर, मैं आपसे
सीरीज देखी है?
मिनिस्ट्री में गए, उसको
सीरीज देखी है?
मैं आईएनबी
सीरीज देखी है?
मैं आईएनबी मिनिस्ट्री की
सीरीज देखी है?
जो ऑफिशियली काम हो रहा है, उससे बात कर रहा हूं।
मैं बात नहीं कर सकता आपसे, आपने सीरीज ही नहीं देखी है।
All right, so on the right you had a pretty defensive director of the series, Anubhav Sinha, refusing to answer a question by a journalist. Of course, he is claiming that because the journalist has not seen the series, he can't engage with him in a conversation. But net, this is what has happened. The Netflix content lead and one other person met with senior INB ministry officials today, and they have agreed to update the disclaimer which was revealed by the host of that press conference some time back. They've decided to update the disclaimer, the initial disclaimer, which will have not just the Hindu code names used by the hijackers, but also what their real names were. Is that good enough? Is this the end of this controversy? And the larger question of how does one prevent a repeat of something like this from happening on OTT content? So let me now open this up to our panelists. Kanchan Gupta is Senior Advisor with the INB Ministry, Rohan Gupta, spokesperson of the BJP, Adil Singh Boparai, spokesperson of the Congress Party, and SP Ware, this former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, and he had played a first-hand role back then in 1999. The release of 2 out of these 3 terrorists were from different jails in Kashmir. So welcome, gentlemen. Let me start with you, Kanchan Gupta, because what many viewers and many folks on Twitter, etc., are still saying that, Netflix seems to have gotten away with it. This is what Monica Shergill, the Vice President of Content, Netflix India, who met with the INB Secretary today, said after the meeting. For the benefit of audiences unfamiliar with the 1999 hijacking, the opening disclaimer has been updated to include real and code names of the hijackers. The code names in the series reflect those that were used during the actual event. India has a rich culture of storytelling. We are committed to showcasing these stories and their authentic representation. Is this satisfactory?
I don't think, Zaka, the way the reports are coming, a lot of people who are responding or maybe who have seen the movie and they are reporting their facts. See, this is not only about the opening disclaimer, Zaka. This is about the event which has happened, which is very, very serious event in the history of India. And when you are reporting the serious event, you cannot distort the facts. Facts are facts. This is not the work of fiction, right? You are reporting something on the factual incident. And when you are reporting that, maybe this is so-called liberals' view that hiding the real names of the hijackers or maybe downplaying the role of ISI and Pakistan. I'm not going into debate whether it is deliberate or whether it is just, the work of fiction. But something is wrong here, that you cannot play around with the facts which are in public domain. If you are reporting this incident about this hijack, then you have to report all the facts.
No, so Rohan, then the question is, what are you doing about it? Because Netflix seems to have gotten away with just this one disclaimer saying, we'll reveal the real names and we'll reveal the code names. But clearly your objections to it are far more than just that.
I agree with you, Zak. I think after this is eye-opener for all of us, and I personally feel that OTT, I'm not saying that you need to control the OTT content, but there has to be certain guidelines or maybe something needs to be done after this incident, because you cannot get away with, playing around with the sentiments of the country. This is a serious issue. So something needs to be done on this.
Kanchan Gupta, you heard Rohan Gupta, who's an official BJP spokesperson. He is sort of echoing what many people still feel, that just by putting a disclaimer of the real and code names of the hijackers is simply not good enough. There are other problematic elements in that series, including what many believe is a certain whitewashing of the brutality of those terrorists, a whitewashing of the role of Pakistan and ISI in the entire saga. Will those be addressed at all? Or, how do you speak to those concerns?
Good evening, Zaka. Thank you for inviting me to your show. Look, I come in from two different places. I come in as someone who was OSD to Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. I was a member of the Prime Minister's office. And the IC 814 hijacking happened in front of my eyes, in the sense that the whole hijacking saga, it unfolded, unraveled, and was resolved in front of my eyes. So I would not see the Netflix series, merely in terms of the code names that were used without making any reference to the real names of the hijackers. My whole perspective is that it was a very complex story. It was a story which did not begin and end. It did not begin only from Kathmandu. It did not end only at Kandahar. Mm-hmm. There was a foreground to the story. The story happens, and then there are subsequent events which are on account of the hijacking and the cost we paid for it. We all know who was the mastermind behind the Pulwama terrorist attack. Yeah. One of the terrorists we had to release to secure the release of the hostages. We all know that, and it was established even while the hijacking was on, we had established it. We didn't know their real names. We did not know their identity. We didn't know which was the organization they were from. We had a breakthrough in Mumbai, and we found four of the facilitators over there. I think 3 were from Pakistan, 1 was from India, if I recollect correctly. And it is from them that we learned that these are the real names of the hijackers. that these are code names which were given to them by their ISI handlers.
Okay.
And this is how the whole plot was hatched, that it was hatched in Pakistan, that it was an ISI sponsored terrorist attack on India in the skies. So all these details were known even before the story was over. And subsequently, the people keep on referring to the Home Minister's statement, which was issued, which sort of chronicles from first day to last day everything that happened. Go and look at the statement. It also gives you the names, this Bhola and Shankar or whatever. But the statement is much more than those 4 names or 5 names. The statement is about ISI's involvement, of Pakistan's involvement as a terror sponsoring country, as the criminality of ISI's involvement. And at the end of the series, what do you see? Oh, Pakistan was totally not in the loop. ISI was not in the loop, and they were totally taken by surprise. My foot.
So Adil Boparai, I think this is part of the problem.
Tomorrow Pakistan is going to come up and say, your people have made a serial which gives us a clean chit, which whitewashes all the allegations you had leveled against us, so you have nothing to say.
So Adil, this is part.
Is my current profile or my current engagement with the government. And I would not want to talk about what happened at today's meeting. That remains undisclosed. But all I can say is that all concerns were put on the plate, and all the issues we have with this particular serial were put on the plate. And Netflix, as a content platform, as an intermediary, they cannot take the position that we don't know about the content, the authenticity of the content, etc. They have to be aware of what they are putting out. They have to take responsibility for what they are putting out, and they have to be concerned. So, if they want to be in this country, they have to be concerned about this country's sentiments.
Okay, let me ask Adil Boparai. You know, the worry, Adil, is that from day one, yesterday I spoke to General Malik, who was the army chief at that time. I have a conversation with Mr. Dulat, who was the RAW chief at that time. These were all players who were first-hand involved in this rescue operation. And all of them said one thing straight up to me, that it was clear to them right from the first day when this happened, that the people who were behind the scenes, who were supporting and fomenting and getting this done through the hijackers, were the ISI and were Pakistan and were then General Musharraf's regime. But the series, unfortunately, as Kanchan Gupta said a moment ago, Adil, tries to whitewash the role of the Pakistani state and the ISI in particular, even in the end where it says that the ISI was not even called for the celebration. I'll play at the end of this debate. He even says that whole thing about, a RAW agent in Kathmandu calling and warning about something like this happening. All of this, he says, is big BS. So if the makers say they want to be authentic to the code names that the hijackers used, then they better be authentic to everything else that happened around the hijacking.
Well, Zaka, I find this quite ironic. Who's in government? The BJP is in government. The IB, the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, is headed by a BJP minister. So if the BJP and the BJP acolytes have an issue, they should speak to their government and ensure that certain norms are followed, certification norms are followed, and the Information and Broadcasting Ministry takes remedial steps. Instead of quibbling about it on national television, it just shows how disoriented the Bharatiya Janata Party is, point number one. Point number two, facts remain facts, Zaka, and they don't change. It is a matter of fact that the BJP government freed 3 dreaded terrorists. Those 3 dreaded terrorists were masterminds of the Parliament attack, of the Bombay attack, and of the Pulwama attack. So therefore, this happened under the BJP watch when these terrorists were freed. It was during the Congress government when the agencies had arrested these 3 dreaded terrorists. Now, it is also a matter of fact that the BJP under Mr. Modi's first tenure had invited the ISI to the Pathankot base as a part of a joint investigation team. These are also facts. So, let's not glean and gloss over facts. The BJP, unfortunately, has made a mess of national security. And now I find this very, very strange. My very dear friend, for whom I have great regard, Mr. Rohan Gupta, is red flagging all this, but he's in government. Then why isn't he speaking to his INB minister and ensuring that remedial steps are taken? You are having this discussion, but the BJP is making a straw man of somebody else. If you're indeed aggrieved, and it was your short-sightedness. The plane was allowed to take off from Amritsar. It was an Akali Dal BJP government in Amritsar. So therefore, the buck stops with you. You messed it up. You freed those 3 terrorists who are responsible for ghastly attacks for a decade and a half after that. So therefore, the BJP must own responsibility and they must set their house in order.
No, on the Amritsar part, and I think, with the hindsight of the last 24 years, we can say this with a certain degree of conviction. We know what happened. One, the NSG team was en route from Manesar. They would take whatever time they would take from Manesar to Amritsar. Second, the Punjab police commandos were there at the airport, but the DGP at that time, Mr. Satbir Singh, was waiting for some order from someone from Delhi so as to take... Let me just finish. Give me 10 seconds. Give me 10 seconds, please. Was waiting for orders from someone from Delhi to storm the plane. And the third most important thing, and this is again, Mr. Dulat revealed this in the conversation, where he said that Prakash Singh Badal, who was the chief minister at that time, very clearly said to the DGP that he does not want bloodshed on Punjab's soil. And the fourth and most important thing, and to be fair to the makers, they show some part of this in the series, is it's in Amritsar that Rupin Katyal was stabbed and killed to death. Perhaps the captain saw that, panicked, and the captain realized that, look, they may not stop with just one. They may kill more people on board, and therefore, with a mixture of fear, trepidation, anxiety, I think he did what he thought was the best thing to do, which was to fly out of Amritsar. Of course, now in the benefit of hindsight, 20 years on, we can all say that that was the worst thing to have done, to fly the aircraft out of Indian airspace. But be that as it may.
20 seconds.
Can I just
The
supplement
political
what you
executive
said?
of the day.
Yeah.
The
Zaka,
buck
can you
has
give
to
me
stop
20
with the
seconds?
BJP government of the day.
Yeah.
And Mr. Doval was the RAW chief at that point in time.
Okay. No, so just give me 1 second. Now, Mr. Vaid is also waiting very patiently. Mr. Vaid was in the Jammu and Kashmir police at that time, and I believe you went to the Kot Balwal jail, where Masood Azhar was under detention, was under arrest, and then you sort of took him from the jail in captivity and then sort of handed him over to the team that would then take him across the border. Did it seem at that time, I know there's been a lot of back and forth around the politics of it, the decision, and like I said, in hindsight, now you can say that yes, it was an absolutely disastrous decision to release these 3 terrorists, because later on they went on to mastermind many terror attacks here on Indian soil. But at that time, Mr. Vaid, did it seem that this was a wrong decision, or did it seem like we had no other choice if we needed to save those 150 odd passengers who were held hostage?
Leave this terrorist like.
Okay, I think there's a bit of a problem with Mr. Vaid's video and audio link. We'll try and fix that in a moment. But yes, Kanchan Gupta, you wanted a 30-second intervention.
I just wanted to put something on the table. When IC 814 was happening, the then government had taken the opposition into full confidence. Every critical meeting was also attended by the 3 senior most leaders of the Congress, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, Mr. Manmohan Singh, and Mr. Pranab Mukherjee. Each meeting, and after each meeting, they came out and issued the same statement again and again, that at this moment of national crisis, we stand with the government, we are with the government, and we will endorse any decision taken by the government provided not a single life is lost. Now, when you want some sort of when you want a process where everybody agrees to what you plan to do, and then there is this rider that there should not be a single life lost. The only option is that you bargain, you drive a hard bargain with the hijackers or their sponsors, and you pare it down to the barest minimum possible. What they began with is not in the public domain. What is in the public domain is what was finally given to them.
Okay.
At that point of time, nobody had any inkling that these three would then go ahead to pull off Pulwama, Bombay, and other attacks.
Okay.
Now, if we are going to today sort of go back to recrimination, one could turn around and say the same thing to about the UPA government as to why Mumbai happened. And not once. The Mumbai bombings happened when the Congress was in power. What do they have to say about that? The Mumbai terror attacks happened when the Congress was in power.
Okay.
So I personally do not believe in this recrimination.
So
what is national issue, national importance? There has to be a support system, and I can also remind you that in 2004, after the UPA came to power, Chidambaram's famous statement, when I don't know in what context it came up, but that he said that if we had been in power when IC 814 happened, we would have done the same thing.
Okay. So let me go to Ved Sab. His audio line has just been patched back. So Ved Sab, the question that I asked, in hindsight, everybody can say, what was done was a big blunder, whether it was not storming in Amritsar, whether it was releasing these three dreaded terrorists. But at that time, when it actually happened, did the members of the crisis management group, did the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government at that time have any other choice?
Good evening, Zaka. In fact, the crisis management group did meet, as Mr. Kanchan Gupta was mentioning, and they did take updates of latest what is happening. And the commandos were ready in Amritsar jail, Amritsar airport, and the then DGP of Punjab and all of senior officers were there. In fact, as you were mentioning, Mr. Dullal said they were probably waiting for orders from the crisis management group. And this is what in such situation happened. It's very easy for me to comment that it not allowing the aeroplane from Amritsar would have been the best. In fact, that would have ensured that you are within our territory, and then you could have dealt it with the manner you wanted. But if there are conditions like this, that not even one casualty takes place, in such situation, it cannot be ensured. Then best way is to negotiate. Otherwise, whenever you storm, you are going to end up in some casualties.
All right, I think that line is frozen again. I'm really sorry about this. But Rohan Gupta, please respond to what your good friend Mr. Adil Boparai is saying, that if these concerns are still persisting, then you are in government, you are in power. You should be redressing these concerns, not Adil or his party.
I agree. See, basically, I think Kanchanji has answered almost all the points raised by my friend. See, today when we are sitting in the debate, we cannot just question the decisions which is taken as a country. It was attack on India. And India together, whether it is party in power or opposition, they were together in taking decisions. So I think let's not question what happened that day. Let's today discuss what has been reported in the media or maybe this Netflix series. I think that is distorted, and I completely agree. See, again, government always believes that there should be some freedom of expression. If generally on OTT, if there is any restriction, the same opposition party will come, oh, again, there is a restriction on social media, there is a restriction on OTT. So yeah, this is eye-opener. Maybe you are completely right. We are in government definitely after this incident, when anybody who's reporting the facts on certain historical issues, those cannot be distorted. Because somewhere you are having impact on our culture, somewhere you are having impact on the people who have lost their lives behind these incidents. When you are downplaying the role of ISI or Pakistan, I think you are doing something seriously wrong to the country's reputation. So I think these are the questions which have come up now.
Adil, the selectiveness is the problem. That, okay, you want to say, fine, these were the names that were used by the terrorists. You're being true to what happened on board the flight, and therefore you're only showing their code names and not revealing their real names. Fair enough. But then also be true to the fact that this whole thing was orchestrated by the ISI. I mean, the problem is the selectiveness. The same ISI, Dr. Manmohan Singh goes to Sharm el-Sheikh and says, Pakistan and India are both victims of terror. Mr. Navjot Sidhu, from your state, when he was state president of your party there, goes across the border and hugs General Bajwa, the army chief at that time. The attempt to normalize the behavior of a terror state, whether it is by the Netflix maker, the series makers, or whether it is by different political entities at different points of time. That's the concern. That is the larger concern. Adil.
Zaka, 2-3 points. Number one, the BJP has a track record of politicizing terror incidents. Do I need to remind you when the Mumbai attack happened, Mr. Modi, at a stone's throw away, was busy giving press conferences and taking political potshots at the government of the day? So therefore, Mr. Kanchan Gupta must look within. He must introspect on the conduct of his own party, number one. Number two, when you quote Mr. Navjot Sidhu and the others, do I need to remind you that Mr. Modi went uninvited to Rawalpindi in Pakistan to meet Nawaz Sharif? Uninvited. Number three, who invited the ISI to Pathankot Air Base? It was Mr. Modi. You and I and Mr. Gupta can continue to deride and rightly deride the ISI. However, it was Mr. Modi who invited the ISI to an important and a sensitive military installation. So please understand, the BJP is making a mess of national security. Okay. They use national security as a pretext to garner political votes. But unfortunately, the buck stops with the BJP. I say 814.
Okay. I also want to bring Ved Saab back because I think his line is back. So SP Ved, the point is again this. Okay, you don't have him. Okay, sorry. Yeah, Rohan. Yeah, sorry.
Zaka. So I think when my friend has decided that yes, he has to make this debate political, now let me come in here. Recently in Jammu Kashmir, their ally says that they want dialogue with Pakistan after whatever has happened. Does Congress endorse that? I'm talking about the recent fact. He's going in the history. Do you endorse the discussion or the dialogue with Pakistan, the free trade along LOC? Do you endorse that? So come on, I think, Adil, this is not the point. We are discussing the serious issue where so-called liberals, they are happy that the identity of the people behind this attack is not reflected in the Netflix series.
I'll give Kanchan Gupta the final word. I think the larger concern, Kanchan Gupta, and I think you referred to this earlier on in one of your posts as well, is look, it's not a comparable example because our histories are different, our geographies are different, but look at what's been going on between Israel and Hamas over the last almost a year now. There are still, even today, over 100 Israeli hostages in Hamas captivity, and they are still not holding out for a ceasefire deal on Hamas's terms. Can India ever think of such a thing at all? Because do we as a nation collectively have that mentality? It's all great for politicians to say, oh, we won't negotiate with terrorists. But when push comes to shove, when a plane gets hijacked and when there are real lives at stake, we seem to debunk that, or we seem to not take that very particularly seriously.
Well, a very good point raised by you, Pasha. Zaka, the whole thrust when it is that you have to act like a he-man, like you have to be a toughie. It's very easy, like you said. The expectations are also very predictable. But since you gave the example of the ongoing conflict between Israel and Gaza, there are hostages still being held by Hamas.
Yeah.
Israel is fully aware of the consequences of continuing with military action. Yet they are not calling off the military action. And the latest is Hamas has begun killing those hostages one by one by one. So they are executing those hostages. But Israel remains determined that we shall not negotiate at the point of the gun, or we shall not negotiate at the cost of our hostages. So this is one reality. The second reality is, since this question keeps on coming back, why wasn't commando action taken at Amritsar airport, etc., etc.? Nobody wanted bloodshed over there. The fact is, the police chief at that time made it very clear that I can send my men in, but I cannot assure you of what will be the consequences. We had no idea whether they had explosives with them. We had no idea whether what sort of a response would be there from the terrorists, from the hijackers.
Okay.
What if they had set off explosives, or they had already set up in the plane? So we not only we, but any government sort of works around possibilities. They keep on, and as I said, what was the main purpose of the government of the day? That nobody should be harmed.
Okay.
And that is something which is falling off the radar. Now, coming back to the serial, which we began discussing.
I really have to wrap up.
I'll just
completely
take
over time.
5 seconds.
Okay.
I'll just take 5 seconds. The purpose of the serial has come out at today's press conference held by the director and his group of actors. Nasiruddin Shah says, when he was asked, "Do you remember the hijacking? And what was your reaction at that point?" And he says, "Oh yes, I remember. And my reaction was, oh my God, I hope this does not let off or trigger another wave of Islamophobia." So that was their concern, not the nearly 200 people on board that flight. The team's concern was that whatever they show should not trigger Islamophobia, not the agony, the horror, the excruciating experience of being held hostage for 7 days, of seeing a passenger being killed in front of you.
All right, I got to wrap up. I'm completely out of time. Thank you very much to all our guests for joining us. Like I said, for now, this seems to have blown over.